again? Yeah, I think so. This is a different setup. What are we going to talk about today? I was thinking that there's a lot of young people out there that are just in bad places getting oppressed by the system. And they needed to know that it's happening to everybody. Yeah, that's kind of sad. It happens to everybody. At least I can submerge under the water and let the waves of discontent go by. Or I could be like the little lamb up there who's found himself a nice little perch way up high by Mr. Koala. Get below it or get above it, I guess. Yeah, kind of tough on the young people today, though, because they're right in the middle of it. And they don't even know what they don't know. Hence the definition of not knowing. They don't know that they don't know. And they don't know what they don't know. Well, that's kind of rough then, because, an adult alligator, well, we know how to swim and hunt and fish, and we're big enough that even things don't eat us, the birds and that. In fact, we don't let anything eat us once we're big enough, and it just works better that way. It's the poor babies that get eaten up all the time. In fact, I ate well, I won't tell you. It's just what alligators do. We're predators, You can't always find carrion, so you gotta grab something that's the right size. Which is kind of sad because people are constantly doing that to one another. What do you mean? People eat people? Well, an alligator will eat a little alligator, so I suppose. Do you have them with ketchup? Well, it's not it's cannibalistic kind of eating. They just steal all their time and energy, and then they get tired and they don't have a lot of, when I get tired I just go lay on the bank. Yeah, but in modern society you don't get to lay around much. You gotta work. Oh. Well, how are these kids getting eaten up? Well, modern American society they got 12 years of education, you gotta go. But compared to years ago, when you could get all of your math and your English and your history done in, 4 to 8 years of schooling, now they stretch it out to 12. Teach them a lot of social stuff, and they don't send them to school during the summer. What do you mean? They don't teach them year round? If a baby alligator doesn't learn year round, he gets eaten. I've even seen stories where otters have grabbed alligators. Wasn't a really big alligator, but he hadn't figured it out that you got to get big enough so that you're not on the bottom of the food chain. Yeah, well, they string out the education of the young people. I even knew an administrator at school who says, well, you can't blame the colleges anymore. They don't come to college with, having to know calculus and stuff like that. So the colleges end up having to teach what isn't taught in high school or junior high school or elementary school. Oh, that seems like a really bad system. If they keep stringing it out like that, I mean, if if a baby alligator didn't grow up in a couple years, man, he'd get eaten. How about you, little lamb? Hey, I think he's sleeping. No, he's watching, right? Yeah, well, lambs grow up in a year too. But they have a shepherd, so he could just be hiding out by the shepherd, so that protects the little lambs. Nature really isn't fair, is it? I mean, baby alligators can get eaten by birds and other alligators and big fish and otters, and the little lambs have a protector. Yeah, well, that's how life is. Some people have protectors, some creatures have protection, and some don't. Ooh, yeah, well, Mom turned us loose kind of early. But I survived! So, more about this stupid education system you have. Well, yeah, when I was in school, they taught us a whole bunch of stuff. So when you graduated, high school, you were really capable of doing stuff. And if you wanted to do the more advanced stuff, well, then you went on to college, and there wasn't so much pressure that you had to have a degree to get a good job. But nowadays, as one girl I know who is a graduate student, she says, they don't even let you think unless you have a master's degree. They don't let you think? That's right. They got thought police out there. How can you survive if you're not thinking? How can you survive if you're not thinking? I don't know how they do it. I've talked to young people. I was at the grocery store. Young guy said something, so I said something back to him. Get him thinking. And he just kind of looked at me. I says, well, what do you think about that? You know what his thoughts were? You know what he said? No. Hey, this camera's kind of fascinating. That's interesting. Well, the guy said, well, they tell us what to think. What kind is that? Yeah, I was talking to this young lady at a rummage sale. She was selling books. And there's a book on geography of the world. And I asked her if she had read it. She said, sure. And she started talking about all these different places in the world. So we got this really great conversation going. And where are you going? Well, he's playing around, You talk too much. Get to the end of the story, buddy. Well, I told her about this book, about how some guy wrote a book about how Columbus may have, not Columbus, but before Columbus, how the Chinese might have actually found America, been to America in like 1424 or something like that. Yeah? And as soon as I mentioned the book, she said, oh, our teacher told us that wasn't true. And so she couldn't even think about it. It was like they just beat her on the head, like that. Ow! Yeah, that's what they do to these students. They tell them what to think. If anything else comes up, they just don't hit me. Takes a while for the brains to come back together after you hit me. Well, that's what they're doing to the students. Oh, that's kind of sad. And then other students, they just don't tell them information. They don't tell them? No, they don't tell them. What do you mean they don't tell them? You mean it's not in their system? They just automatically... No, human beings have to get told certain information. They have to find things out. Ooh, you guys are at a disadvantage then if you gotta wait on other humans to learn stuff. Boy, we come equipped. Mom shows us a few things right off the bat, and then we're out there. We're munching on the little insects and little fishies and staying away from the stuff bigger than us. But you humans, you gotta learn. Yeah, that's the difference between humans and reptiles. And then they keep you from learning? That's like keeping you a child or a teenager. How do you ever grow up? Well, some don't. I'm terribly curious about that camera position. Yeah, well, humans, if you got too curious, I'll be like, oh, don't hit me. I don't need to be hit. I'm just naturally curious. I know the little lamb's really curious, too. Yeah, well, they got a shepherd to come and save their furry little hides. And parents help children, so. But they keep you from learning? They keep knowledge from you? Oh, yeah, I was at this Christian cafe, and I was talking to this young lady, and she was asking me questions, and I was telling her what I knew about the Bible and what I believed, and I asked her some questions, because most of the Lutherans I know, they didn't know that much about the Bible. Is that more of that I'm not telling you stuff? That's your point? Yeah, that's the point. This girl knew all this stuff. And she goes, well, my brother's a pastor. He knows all that stuff. They just don't. Well, automatically you think, well, they're just not telling people. And she goes, well, yeah, that's true. You know, they don't want to, cause waves in the water. Just, oh, man. Us alligators were better off then. We don't have to depend on people. Yeah, well, that's what the educational system is. It's almost like they put stuff in your brain so you don't know. And they don't put stuff in your brain so you don't know. Yeah, that's it. So they're running out this educational process for years and years and years. They're milking it so that they can get power, position, profits, and praise, and then they dominate you too, don't they? Huh? They're in charge, so they're like the bigger alligator, so they can just push you around and stuff because you didn't grow up mentally. Yeah, you got to figure it out. You do. That's what it is. Why are humans any better than animals then? Well, they teach them they are animals. Yeah, but all animals know you're not like us. Yeah, they did a study about that too. What, about how animals aren't like humans? No, about how even human beings can tell the difference between other human. Well, are you saying they're lying about it then? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, back at this Christian cafe, there was a young girl visiting there. She said some things, and I asked her some questions about the Bible, and she told me what she knew, and I said, well, didn't you study this? Because it was about the Ten Commandments, and she had different religions have different versions of the Ten Commandments. Isn't that the rules that the Creator gave to everybody? Aren't they the same? Well, yeah, that's true, but some people keep claiming they're not. Well, even animals know that the laws of nature affect us all the same. Are you saying they've got human beings hoodwinked into thinking that the rules don't apply to everybody the same? Well, yeah, that's human society. Well, that sucks. That sucks really bad. Because, the law of the jungle is the laws all apply the same. Yeah, well, they've got people hoodwinked into thinking that, oh, yeah, I gotta go swimming. I can't listen to this anymore. Well, what about you, little lamb? You want to hear about it? There's this guy at work. He was frustrated about the teaching lesson that they were going to show the little children. I said, what's wrong? He goes, well, they're saying that's like an electron microscope, and it's not. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, an electron microscope, you throw electrons at the device, at the object, and then they bounce back, and then you can tell things about it because of, so it's reflected. And he goes, yeah, they're just showing a. He goes, they're passing light through something. It's just a shadow. And so here's this guy in his 20s. They're going to be teaching children this project, and the way it's set up isn't right. And he knew, he had studied, actually he had a 4-year degree too, but he worked with metals. And the young guy knew that wasn't honest. He knew the difference between a shadow and a reflected image. And it's sad because I run into so many young people today. They just don't know. What do you think about that, little lamb? They just don't know. And others are just being lied to. And some people know. That's got to be the worst thing about it today. The young people that know but can't say anything because there's people who have power, position, for profits and praise and pleasure. And they apply pressure to people, keep them in line so they can keep their power and position. And then the worst thing about it is you got to spend $40,000 to get a degree so they'll let you think. Yeah, modern society, modern education, it's not like it was years ago. At least back when the United States was founded, you could pack it all up in a wagon and go out west somewhere. As long as you got along well with the natives, But what can young people do? Well, the response is you can grow wherever you're at. You've seen flowers, trees, weeds. They grow in the cracks in the sidewalk, meridian of the road. I mean, hey, just grow wherever you're at. And you can be like my pineapple plant. This pineapple plant I've got growing. And even if they chop off a good share of you, find some dirt, find some place where you can grow and start over again. Many things you can do. You can go over the mountain, you can go around the mountain, you can tunnel under the mountain, you can tunnel through the mountain. If you believe Jesus, you can just tell the mountain to move. It's your choice. But there are mountains and valleys and hills and streams. Grow wherever you're at.